Hi there, algebra class. Right now we're getting into 10.4, solving radical equations. Honestly, nothing too extreme, just a little bit different than what you have been doing up until this point. Um, we'll get through it. I really don't think you'll have too much problems with this. It's actually a little easier than I was thinking when I first started looking at this chapter. So I hope your guys' grades reflect that on my thought process. I know we're in a situation where it isn't great, but hey, we'll try to make the most of it. Objective is to solve equations containing radicals to identify extraneous solutions. Okay. And extraneous solutions is going to be one of our vocab words. First we have radical equation. Is an equation that is a variable in a radicand. Radical. So yeah. So basically, if you're going to end up having an x in there, that extraneous solutions is an apparent solution that does not satisfy the original equation. So when we go back and test these out to see if they work, it will not work. Okay. So here we have the square root of x plus 7 equals 16. Well, we'd have to minus by 7 minus by 7. We'd end up with x squared equals 9. We'd have to square both sides because that would get rid of our square root. So we get x equals 81. Okay, well, we got to test it out to make sure it isn't an extraneous solution. We put square root of 81 in there plus 7 and see if it equals 16. Well, you'll get 9 plus 7 equals 16. That is correct. So that one does work. Let's try this one right here. See, we got the square root of x minus 5 equals negative 2. Plus 5, you're going to end up with 3. Square root of x equals square root of x equals 3. Square both sides, you're going to get x equals 9. Okay, so we're going to put square root of 9 in here. And then we're going to go minus 5 equals negative 2. Okay, so you get 3 minus 5 equals negative 2. And that will work because you will get that. Oh, go up a little bit. Let you look at this a little bit. Extraneous, the one thing that I think will be a big kicker on that is going to be probably negative numbers because that could change some things. Other than that, I don't think so. Okay, you guys ready to move on? Okay, with that being said, going to the back here. We're going to start with using a radical equation. Just a little bit of a thought going into this. Let's read through this and then we'll see what some thought process here. The time t is in seconds it takes for a pendulum of a clock to complete a swing is approximately t equals 2 square root L divided by 33, where L is the length of the pendulum in feet. The pendulum of a click completes a swing, that should be clock. click, clock. Okay, complete a swing in 3 seconds. What is the length of the pendulum? Round to the nearest tenth of a foot. Well, if that is the case, going back to our original equation, t equals 2 square root L over 33.3. Bringing that there, okay? And all of this is square root. So we will square root that too, just to get it going in the right direction. Okay, now it tells us that this t is going to be 3 seconds in this case. So 3 equals 2, which can be outside of this, square root L over 33, or 3.3. Okay, divide that. You're going to end up dividing both sides. You get 1.5 equals the square root of L and 3.3. Okay, now I'm thinking you're probably going to end up squaring both sides. So this is going to be squared. This is going to be squared. Okay, that's going to end up getting you about 2.25 equals L over 33.33. You would then have to multiply by 3.3 to both sides to get rid of that on that side. You should end up getting something along the lines, and I'm running out of room, of 7.425 is what L equals. You'd plug that back in to check yourself, and when you do, you should get those to equal in this case. And you can check you should check yourself. I guess I will too, just to show you that you should. Don't want to be a hypocrite. So you get 7.425 over 3.3. You really basically are going to do the same thing you did before. You're going to get 1.5 equals the square root of 7.425 over the square root of 3.3. Then you would end up having to square both sides, but you should end up getting where they are equal. You could also just solve it or type this into your calculator right here and see if it equals 3 or not. Okay? How long is a pendulum if the swing takes 1 second? Well, you're going to kind of do the same thing. The only thing that's really going to take place is you're going to have 1 equals 2 square root L over square root 3.3, or that could be the same. You're going to get 1/2 equals that, and then you're going to get the square of L over 3.3. Square root both sides. You're going to end up with 1/4, or that can also equal 0.25. L over 3.3. If you change that to 2.5, 2.5 times 3.3 equals L. When you do that, you should get 2.5 times 3.3, and I get 8.25 is what L should equal. Now, once again, you'd have to plug that back in and make sure it works. So you'd plug that in for L in here and solve it. So you'd have 1 equals 2, 8.25 over 3.3. Square root both of those and solve it. In which case, it should equal each other. Okay. I'm trying to think if I'm off a couple decimals. That's the only thing that's scaring me right now. Oh, I am. This should be 0.25, which then would make this point like that, which would make that point. Okay. Once again, making little mistakes, and that's That's what math usually gets you on, so be careful. Okay, going into number 3, solving with radical expressions on both sides. So right now we have this square root of 5t minus 11 equals the square root of t plus 5. Obviously, you're probably going to square both sides, and you're going to end up with 5t minus 11 equals t plus 5. Plus 11 over here, plus 11. I'm going to minus a t, minus t. You're going to end up with 4t equals 16. Divide by 4, divide by 4. T is going to get you 4. Okay, if we plug t in there, you're going to get 20. Over here, right, square root of 20 minus 11, which equals the square root of 9. On this side, you're just going to get the square root, or 4 plus 5 square root, which will get you the square root of 9. That one does work. We checked ourselves. It does work out. Okay, here we got a square root again of 7x minus 4 equals the square root of 5x plus 10. Okay, once again, both are squared, so I'm going to try to get rid of the square root, or they're both square root, so I have to square both. To get rid of that, just trying to make my life as easy as I can. So I end up with 7x minus 4 equals 5x plus 10. Now it became, once again, a very easy math problem. You're looking at, this gets me 14. I'm going to minus the 5x over, minus 5x over. That gets that gone. This side's going to leave me with 2x equals 14. Divide by 2, x equals 7. Okay, put 7 back up in there. We got square root of 49 minus 4 equals 7 in there is going to give me 35 plus 10 square root. You're going to get square root of 55 equals the square root of 45. 45 and 45, my bad, not 55. Okay, that equals, makes sense. So x is my answer here, and up here my answer was t equals 4. Okay, now identifying extraneous solutions. What is the solution of n equals square root of n plus 12? Okay, I'm going to square both sides and get rid of the square root. So you're going to have n to the second equals n plus 12. Okay. The thing you're probably seeing here is you're probably going to start looking at probably a quadratic equation. Not the quadratic formula, but a quadratic equation. And we're going to minus this over. We're going to and minus the 12 over, and we get this. Okay, now you're going to have to factor this, and we just did factoring not too long ago, so this shouldn't be super hard, but it's sometimes a challenge. What I always do is right here to get n and n, we're unfoiling, so your first out or last. For your parents, if they're helping you, that's probably not going to be something they know real well off the top of their head, but we'll try to teach it here. You end up with a negative here, so I'm going to put a negative. This is a negative, so I'm going to have a plus and a minus, because to get a negative number, I must have one of each. Being this is negative, my bigger number is going to go there. Thinking of factors of 12, you got 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. 3 and 4 is a good one because they're really close, and that's just one n, so I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to put 4 there because the bigger number goes with the negative, because we end up with a negative, and there's 3. Okay, this is set equal. Now you solve. N minus 4 equals 0, and you have n plus 3 equals 0. Minus 3, n equals negative 3. plus 4 plus 4. What you do to one side, you must do to the other. And you get n equals 4. Now, we've solved this. For anyone that's still not 100% of yourself on factoring, remember when you FOIL this back out, you should get that. So first, outer, inner, last. Okay? There's a lot of good foiling videos out there if you forget how to do that too. Just look up foiling in math and it will probably come up in a big time. Okay, now you have to plug this back into your original equation, which would have been n equals square root of n plus 9. Okay, if we put negative 3 in there, we're going to get negative 3 equals, okay, you put negative 3 square root of 9, which is 3 equals negative 3. That is not true. So negative 3 would be an extraneous solution. Does not work. So that would be your extraneous. You put 4 in there. 4, you end up with square root of 16. Yep, that works. So 4 is the answer. This is your extraneous one on this one. Okay. What is the solution of negative y equals square root y plus 6? All this in there. Okay. You got to square both sides, so you're going to end up with negative y. Oh, that'd be positive though. That becomes positive because a negative times a positive equals, I think I'm right on that aspect, y plus 6. Nothing else. I'll figure out where I went wrong here in a second. So that'd be minus y minus 6 equals 0. Okay, you're going to factor this again. So you got a y and a y. Factors of this are 1 and 6, 2 and 3. We have a minus y, we have a minus 6, so I'm going to have a plus and a minus. My bigger one's going to have to be negative, so I'm going to put a 3 here and a 2 there. It should, when you do first outer or FOIL, it should end up being, this works out, because of the fact that this number has to be, the negative number would have to be a touch bigger. So you get, then you'd set these equal to 0, and you'd end up with adding 3, so you'd end up with y equals 3, x equals negative 2, because that was set to 0, and you would subtract 2 from both sides. Put these back in, you got negative 2, which is going to be negative y, which then is 2, negative, so you'd have the square root of 4, which then would get you 2 equals 2. So negative 2 would work. If you put 3, you're going to get negative 3 equals, 3 in there is going to get you the square root of 9. Well, that's 3. That is not equal, so this would be your extraneous root, or solution. So it does not work. Extraneous ones are ones that do not work for you. Identifying equations with no solutions. This basically, once again, you're just gonna have to solve her out. Trying to see here what I decided to do. Okay. So you have the square root of 3y plus 8 equals 2. This would be minus 8, so you'd end up with the square root of 3y equals negative 6. You'd square both sides. Well, a negative times a negative is a positive, so you'd end up with 3y equals 36. Divide by 3, you get y equals 12. If I put 12 in there, I end up with 36 square root plus 8 equals 2. Well, this is going to give me 6 plus 8, which is equal to 2, though we know that isn't true, so this one has no solution. Or no solution. Hopefully I don't run out of room. Okay. Make sure you can see that. So, we got one more here. You have a question still? What is the solution of 6 minus the square root of 2x equals 10? Minus 6 minus 6. You'd end up with negative square root 2x equals 4. I'd multiply both sides by negative 1 to get rid of that negative. You get square root of 2x equals negative 4. Square both sides. You're going to end up getting 2x equals 16. Divide by 2. X should equal 8. Okay, you put that in there, you're going to get 16. So 6 minus the square root of 16 equals 10. You get that, so you're going to get 6 minus 4 equals 10. Well, that's going to get you 2 equals 10. That is not. So this is another no solution. Okay, that's pretty well it. Honestly, I don't know how you feel about it. Your homework, obviously I give you the worksheets. I circled some for you. Do the circle ones and your flip grid. And if you got any questions, you know how to get a hold of me. I have no problem answering. Usually I try to get back to you fairly decent, unless I'm doing chores would be the only way that I won't. So give it a shot. Let me know how it goes.